Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Brinson Bell, the administration has, as I mentioned in my opening comments, cutting federal government staff, resources that focus on elections, as well as critical disaster preparedness programs. In your written testimony, you mentioned critical partnerships and resources, agencies like CISA, EAC, Emergency Management, and other federal partners. As election officials assess and plan for the next election, how will the loss of these partnerships and resources impact contingency planning and training, and how will election officials utilize the resources they have to fill these gaps? And frankly, is there enough space? Do they have enough resources to fill some of these gaps?
Thank you for that question. Election administrators across the country are certainly concerned about the reduced support that we're receiving from the federal agencies, particularly CISA. That was a critical partnership in helping us to build out what was really a 6-year plan in how we were ready for Helene. In North Carolina, we met monthly with our state, federal, and local partners in preparation for any hazard that might be necessary to conduct an election through. We had them on site with us during elections. As we positioned ourselves at the Emergency Operations Center, we very much utilized the tabletop the vote exercise, which I'm not sure will continue with the reduced support. And that actually had us well prepared, because we took tabletop the vote to a statewide exercise that we then delivered to the 100 counties for them to exercise with their local emergency management, state IT and county IT, various partners, law enforcement and so forth, to be ensure that no matter the hazard that we were prepared. And I think that's why we were able to pivot so quickly. I also mentioned that the federal funding was critical in those first few days. It wasn't a matter of how much we had, it was a matter of the questions to us were, what do you need? And those things were delivered. We had, for example, a portable toilet was not available in Yancey County to the elections office. They did not have those resources, but emergency management and FEMA got those in place. The same with the 7 tent sites that we used. FEMA delivered those tents. FEMA provided the security for that, and I'm not sure, given some of the cuts, if we're really in a position to ensure that that takes place. The legislature certainly provided funding, but it took until October 10th for that to come through. The federal government and the state emergency fund in particular were the ones who met the need immediately.
So I'm curious, we in fiscal year 2023, the appropriation for election assistance from the federal government was $75 million. Were passed out of the Appropriations Committee an amount of $15 million, so a cut of 80% from 2023. I'm just curious, in North Carolina, what does it cost to run a statewide presidential general election?
The survey in 2016 post-presidential election was that the cost was $17 million. We know this because North Carolina is the only state that requires the voting equipment vendors to post a bond to be certified as a voting equipment supplier in North Carolina. So we just completed that survey, and the board just adopted the new bond amount, which is over $35 million to conduct a new election in the state of North Carolina. So at $75 million, all of that is halfway spent in North Carolina alone. $15 million doesn't even get it done, and it's costly to conduct a new election.
Yeah. So you may have said this, and I may have missed it. What was the additional cost in 2024 as a result of the natural disaster? So if you have a baseline amount, you said $75 million, roughly. What was the additional cost of the hurricane?
The additional costs were really not something that we had to bring out of our budget. There was $2.5 million allotted by the legislature. We spent about $500,000, a lot of that on efforts to communicate to the voters through a media campaign and so forth. The actual other expenditures were absorbed through state and federal funding through FEMA and the State Emergency Fund.
Yeah, okay. I do appreciate that, and rather than going over, because I'm sure my next question would elicit a longer answer, I'm going to yield back again. Thank you to everybody for being here, Madam Chair.